The crystalline architecture of the Galactic Council's Grand Negotiation Hall stretched impossibly high, its translucent walls refracting cold blue light that seemed to emanate from the very structure itself. Above the vaulted ceiling displayed a living map of the galaxy stars pulsing in real time as they burned millions of light-years away. The chamber could house 10,000 beings comfortably, yet today it felt oppressively intimate as Ambassador Frank Miller of Earth sat at the modest human delegation table, watching the familiar ritual of rejection unfold before him. Frank Miller was a man who had learned patience the hard way. 53 years old, with graying temples and lines around his eyes that spoke of countless diplomatic battles, he possessed the kind of steady presence that could weather any storm. Beside him sat Samantha Wright, Earth's scientific advisor, her fingers drumming nervously against her tablet as she ran calculations on global mortality rates. On his other side, Alan Peterson, the delegation's security officer, maintained the rigid posture of a career military man, barely containing his frustration. This was the 7th vote in 3 consecutive years. Each time, Earth's petition for access to regenerative medical technology had been denied under the same bureaucratic reasoning, Regulation 87C, which stated that species must demonstrate technological maturity and societal stability before gaining access to life-extending biotechnology. The regulation was older than human civilization, written by beings who measured progress in millennia rather than decades. High Speaker Vix Toth, a towering figure whose crystalline carapace caught and scattered the hall's blue light, called for the final tally. The vote on Petition 7 Alpha 9 regarding Terra's request for regenerative medical technology access stands as follows: 29 votes in opposition, 22 abstentions, 12 votes in favor. The translator implants rendered his words in perfect English, but couldn't soften their impact. The petition is denied. Frank had expected this outcome, but the weight of it still pressed against his chest like a physical force. Behind that simple vote count lay the deaths of millions of humans who would age and die while bureaucrats debated their worthiness. Earth's population of 8 billion souls hung in the balance of a technology that could extend human lifespans by centuries, eliminate most diseases, and usher in an unprecedented era of human flourishing. Samantha leaned close, her whisper barely audible. Frank, the latest projections show we'll lose approximately 200 million people to aging-related conditions in the next decade alone. We can't keep waiting. Alan's jaw tightened as he watched the Zenturi delegation's smug satisfaction. The reptilian species had been among the most vocal opponents of human inclusion, despite Earth's repeated demonstrations of technological advancement and peaceful intentions. "Sir," he murmured, "we have confirmation from Earth Command. Protocol walk away is authorized." Protocol walk away. The phrase carried weight that extended far beyond its simple words. It represented Earth's official withdrawal from the Galactic Council, a severing of diplomatic ties that had taken humanity 50 years to establish. It was a nuclear option in the truest sense, one that would leave Earth isolated, but free to pursue its own path among the stars. Frank stood slowly, his movement causing a ripple of attention across the vast chamber. Conversations died as thousands of eyes turned toward the human delegation. The ambassador's voice, when he spoke, carried clearly through the hall's acoustic amplification system. "High Speaker Vix Toth, esteemed delegates of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your consideration of Earth's petition." His tone remained diplomatic, betraying none of the emotion churning beneath the surface. However, it has become clear that this body views humanity as perpetually unworthy of equal partnership. Therefore, I hereby invoke Protocol Walk Away. The Earth delegation formally withdraws from all Council proceedings, effective immediately. The silence that followed was deafening. In 5,000 years of Council history, no species had ever voluntarily withdrawn. Species were expelled, conquered, or extinct, but they didn't simply walk away. Samantha and Alan moved with practiced efficiency, activating their portable data destroyers and wiping all classified Earth technology from the Council's shared networks. The shimmering holographic displays around their table flickered and died as Earth's integrated systems disconnected from the galactic data stream. High Speaker Vix Toth's translator struggled with what might have been stuttering. Ambassador Miller, surely you understand the implications of this action. Earth will forfeit all technological exchanges, all trade agreements, all protection under Council jurisdiction. Your species will be alone. Frank paused at the threshold of the hall, his delegation already filing out behind him. High Speaker, humanity has been alone since the day we joined this council. The difference is that now we're choosing our solitude. He turned to face the assembly one final time. We wish you well, but we will proceed without you. As the heavy crystalline doors sealed behind them, the first tremors of chaos began to ripple through the Council's carefully ordered systems. The orbital station that housed the Grand Hall had been designed with Earth's technological contributions integrated into its most basic functions. Artificial gravity fluctuated as Earth's gravitational manipulation algorithms went offline. Translation matrices began glitching as human linguistic databases became inaccessible. Environmental controls struggled as Earth's atmospheric processing enhancements ceased operation. But the humans weren't entirely gone. Dr. Diana Reeves remained aboard Council Station in her capacity as an independent scientific observer, a position that predated the Council membership, and therefore remained valid despite the withdrawal. Her official mission was to monitor stellar phenomena and report her findings to Earth's scientific community. Her unofficial mission was to document everything that happened next. Diana was a xenoarchaeologist by training, someone who understood how civilizations rose and fell across cosmic timescales. She had dedicated her career to studying dead species, extinct cultures that had once thought themselves immortal. Now, she found herself in the unique position of watching a galactic civilization experience its first existential crisis in millennia. From her small laboratory in the station's research wing, Diana monitored the cascade of system failures spreading through Council infrastructure. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in an unsettling red glow as primary illumination networks faltered. The elegant magnetic transit tubes that moved beings efficiently through the massive structure began experiencing random reversals, sending passengers tumbling through zero-gravity sections they weren't designed to navigate. The economic implications became apparent within hours. Earth had been a major trading partner for over 300 species, providing everything from rare minerals to cultural exports that had become integral to galactic commerce. Markets began fluctuating wildly as automated trading systems tried to compensate for the sudden absence of Earth-based commodities. The Alteran Stock Exchange, which relied heavily on Earth's unique approach to quantum computation, experienced its first total shutdown in 8 centuries. Banking networks across 17 sectors froze as financial institutions scrambled to replace Earth-developed security protocols. Transportation companies that operated Earth-manufactured vessels found themselves stranded as maintenance codes and upgrade pathways disappeared overnight. Diana documented it all, sending encrypted reports back to Earth via independent communication channels that bypassed Council networks entirely. Her reports painted a picture of an institution discovering just how dependent it had become on the very species it had consistently dismissed as technologically immature. Back on Earth, the news of the withdrawal spread like wildfire through global communication networks. In government buildings, research institutions, and military complexes around the world, humanity's greatest minds were already implementing protocols that had been developed in secret over the past several years. Earth's leaders had prepared for this possibility, recognizing that the Council's continued rejection would eventually force their hand. The Mariana Research Facility, built in the deepest parts of the Pacific Ocean, where no alien sensors could penetrate, became the focal point of humanity's desperate gamble. Dr. Paul Baker and Dr. Kelly Stewart led a team of 1,200 scientists and engineers in the most ambitious reverse engineering project in human history. For 3 years, human intelligence operatives had been quietly acquiring samples of Council technology through legitimate and semi-legitimate means. Trade delegations had purchased obsolete medical equipment. Scientific exchange programs had provided access to detailed technical specifications. Cultural missions had returned with detailed scans of biotechnology that the Council freely shared with advanced species. The challenge wasn't obtaining the technology, it was understanding and improving it. Council regenerative medicine was based on principles that human science was only beginning to grasp. The nanobiological machines that could repair cellular damage and reverse aging were constructed using materials that didn't exist naturally in Earth's solar system. Dr. Baker, a biochemist who had spent his entire career studying cellular regeneration, stared at the holographic display showing the molecular structure of Council nanites. "Kelly, look at this. They're using crystalline matrices to store genetic information, but the crystal structure is inherently unstable at normal temperatures. That's why their regeneration process takes months to complete a full biological reset." Dr. Stewart, whose expertise lay in materials science and nanotechnology, nodded as she manipulated the display to show alternative configurations. "But if we use carbon diamond substrates instead of their silicon beryllium composites, we could actually create a more stable platform. The processing time would drop from months to weeks, and the cellular integration would be significantly smoother." The Mariana team worked in shifts around the clock, driven by the knowledge that every day of delay meant thousands of preventable deaths across Earth's population. They weren't just trying to replicate Council technology, they were improving it, adapting it to human physiology and human manufacturing capabilities. Above them, Unity Station orbited Earth in a carefully calculated trajectory that kept it hidden from Council sensors behind the Moon's bulk. The massive space platform had been under construction for 15 years, ostensibly as a research facility and Earth's primary spaceport. In reality, it was humanity's backup plan, a fully self-sufficient base of operations that could support Earth's space-based infrastructure indefinitely without Council assistance. Captain Ben Rogers commanded Unity Station with the calm competence of someone who had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. A former test pilot turned space administrator, he understood both the technical capabilities of his command and the strategic implications of Earth's withdrawal from galactic society. Status report. Rogers requested, as he entered Unity's command center, a sophisticated nerve center that rivaled anything the Council had ever constructed. "All systems green, Captain," reported his operations officer. "Earth-Moon traffic is proceeding normally. Our manufacturing facilities are at full capacity. The agriculture domes are producing ahead of schedule." She paused, consulting her displays. "We're tracking 17 Council vessels that have altered course toward Earth space, but they're maintaining their distance beyond our declared territorial boundary." Rogers nodded unsurprised. Earth's withdrawal would have immediate strategic implications for every species in the galaxy. Some would see it as an opportunity to expand their influence. Others would worry about the precedent it set. A few might even consider it an act of aggression that required a response. "Maintain defensive readiness, but don't do anything that could be interpreted as provocative," Rogers ordered. "Our job is to prove that humanity can stand on its own. Starting a fight wouldn't serve that purpose." On the planet below, governments struggled to explain the situation to their populations. The withdrawal from the Galactic Council wasn't exactly a secret, but the full implications were staggering. Humanity was now alone in a galaxy filled with species that possessed technology centuries or millennia beyond Earth's capabilities. In Geneva, Ambassador Catherine Hughes found herself in the surreal position of hosting an emergency diplomatic conference with the very alien representatives who had just voted to exclude humanity from galactic civilization. The Council had dispatched envoys to Earth within hours of the withdrawal, apparently hoping to convince humanity to reconsider. The Centauri representative, Ambassador Kes Naloth, spoke through a translation device that rendered his hissing, clicking language into precisely enunciated English. Ambassador Hughes, surely your government understands that this withdrawal is premature and ultimately self-destructive. Earth cannot survive in isolation. Your technology, your resources, your very civilization depends on Council support. Catherine Hughes was a diplomat's diplomat, someone who had spent 30 years navigating the complex politics of first contact and interspecies relations. She possessed an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under pressure, a skill that served her well as she faced down beings who could vaporize her planet with weapons humanity couldn't even comprehend. Ambassador Naloth, she replied with perfect composure. I think you misunderstand our position. We're not asking the Council to change its policies or make exceptions for humanity. We're simply choosing to pursue our development independently, as is our right under galactic law. The Plorian delegate, a crystalline being, whose faceted surface reflected the conference room's lighting in prismatic patterns, chimed in with harmonious tones that the translator rendered as urgent concern. Ambassador Hughes, the medical technology your species seeks is restricted for valid reasons. Premature exposure to life extension biotechnology has led to societal collapse in 17 documented cases. The Council's caution protects your species from its own ambition. Then, you'll be pleased to know that our withdrawal eliminates that risk entirely, Catherine responded. Earth will develop its own medical technology at its own pace, accepting full responsibility for the consequences. What the Council delegates didn't know was that humanity's medical breakthrough was already well underway. In the deepest parts of the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Baker's team had achieved something that would have been impossible without years of preparation and centuries of accumulated human ingenuity. Kelly, run the simulation one more time. Dr. Baker requested, his voice tight with exhaustion and anticipation. They had been working for 18 consecutive hours, driven by reports from Geneva, suggesting that the Council delegates were becoming increasingly agitated by Earth's refusal to reconsider. The holographic display showed a human cellular structure being invaded by the new nanobiological agents they had developed. Unlike Council technology, which relied on heavy rare earth elements and exotic matter states, human nanites were constructed from modified carbon compounds that could be manufactured using Earth's existing industrial base. Molecular integration successful. Dr. Stewart reported, her voice betraying none of the excitement she felt. Cellular regeneration rate exceeds Council baseline by 37%. Aging reversal process shows complete genetic reset with full cognitive preservation. Paul, I think we've actually done it. The implications were staggering. Not only had humanity successfully reverse-engineered Council medical technology, they had improved it significantly. The human version was faster, more efficient, and could be produced at a fraction of the cost using materials readily available in Earth's solar system. But the breakthrough in medical technology was only one part of Earth's rapid development. Freed from Council restrictions on dangerous technologies, human researchers began pursuing scientific pathways that had been forbidden for decades. Faster-than-light communication systems, dimensional storage technology, and autonomous manufacturing systems all emerged from laboratories that had been quietly working on these projects in preparation for independence. Dr. Diana Reeves continued her observations from Council Station, documenting the growing chaos as Earth's absence created cascading failures throughout galactic civilization. Emergency repair crews struggled to maintain systems that had been designed with human technological contributions. Trade routes that had relied on Earth-manufactured components began experiencing critical shortages. Personal log day 23 of the withdrawal. Diana dictated to her encrypted recorder. The Council's infrastructure damage is becoming systematic rather than isolated. Today, I observed the failure of primary environmental controls in 3 separate sectors. The Alteran delegation has been forced to relocate to emergency housing after their atmospheric processors malfunctioned. Most significantly, the Grand Assembly has been unable to convene for the past week due to translation matrix failures. Without Earth's linguistic databases, communication between species has become increasingly difficult. The irony wasn't lost on Diana. The Council had denied humanity membership in an advanced galactic civilization, while simultaneously depending on human contributions to maintain that civilization's basic functions. It was like an exclusive club ejecting a member for being insufficiently sophisticated, only to discover that the same member had been the one keeping the lights on. Meanwhile, on Earth, the first human trials of the new regenerative medical technology began under conditions of absolute secrecy. Volunteer test subjects, all terminally ill patients who had given informed consent, received the nanobiological treatments in underground facilities shielded from any possible Council surveillance. The results exceeded even the most optimistic projections. Cancer patients experienced complete tumor elimination within days. Subjects with advanced aging-related diseases showed dramatic cellular regeneration. Most remarkably, the cognitive enhancement effects, an unexpected side effect of the cellular renewal process, appeared to increase human intelligence and memory capacity significantly. Dr. Baker observed the results with a mixture of professional satisfaction and existential awe. "Kelly, we're not just matching Council medical technology. We're revolutionizing it. These nanites don't just repair damage, they're optimizing human biology beyond its natural limits. The question is whether we're ready for the social implications," Dr. Stewart replied thoughtfully. "If we can extend human lifespans indefinitely and enhance cognitive capabilities, we're essentially creating a post-human species." The Council might have been right about the dangers of premature exposure to this technology. It was a valid concern, but one that humanity would have to address on its own terms. The withdrawal from the Council had been motivated by necessity, millions of humans dying, while bureaucrats debated their worthiness, but it had evolved into something more profound. Earth was becoming truly independent, developing capabilities that in some areas exceeded those of species with millennia of advanced development. The Council began to take notice. Ambassador Frank Miller, who had returned to Earth after the withdrawal, received an encrypted communication from High Speaker Vix Toth, requesting an emergency conference. The message's tone had changed dramatically from the formal dismissal of weeks earlier. Ambassador Miller. The translation rendered the High Speaker's crystalline harmonics as urgent concern. Recent intelligence suggests that Earth has achieved significant technological advances since your withdrawal. The Council wishes to discuss the possibility of renewed diplomatic relations under modified circumstances. Frank shared the message with his team during their daily briefing in Earth's newly constructed Diplomatic Operations Center. The facility, built into the mountains of Colorado, represented humanity's commitment to independence while maintaining the capability for future galactic engagement. "They're scared," Alan Peterson observed with grim satisfaction. Intelligence reports suggest that Council infrastructure failures are becoming critical. Without human technology, they're discovering just how dependent they've become on species they considered inferior. Samantha Wright consulted her tablet reviewing the latest scientific reports from the Mariana facility. "Our medical technology isn't just operational, it's ready for mass production. We could begin treating Earth's aging population within months. More importantly, our manufacturing capabilities mean we could potentially offer these treatments to other species if we chose to." The strategic implications were enormous. Earth had gone from being a supplicant, begging for access to advanced technology, to being a potential supplier of technology that exceeded Council capabilities. The balance of power in galactic civilization was shifting, and humanity found itself in an unexpectedly strong position. But Frank Miller was too experienced a diplomat to let success go to his head. "We need to be very careful here," he warned his team. "We've proven that we can survive independently, but we haven't proven that we can thrive in isolation indefinitely. Eventually, we'll want to re-engage with galactic civilization, but it has to be on terms that respect human dignity and autonomy. The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Ben Rogers, commanding Unity Station, reported the arrival of individual Council species, seeking bilateral negotiations outside official Council channels. The Andromedan Federation, a collection of species that had often clashed with Council orthodoxy, requested private discussions about technology sharing and mutual defense agreements. Captain Rogers to Earth Command came the transmission from orbit. We have 7 separate delegations requesting permission to approach Unity Station for direct negotiations. They're bypassing Council authority entirely and seeking independent relationships with Earth. It appears that our withdrawal has created opportunities for species that were also dissatisfied with Council policies. This development represented something unprecedented in galactic politics. The Council's authority derived from its role as the sole forum for interspecies cooperation. If individual species began establishing direct relationships with Earth, it could fundamentally undermine the Council's power structure. Dr. Diana Reeves observed the Council's growing panic from her position aboard Council Station. Emergency sessions were being called daily, as delegates struggled to address the crisis of legitimacy that Earth's withdrawal had precipitated. Her latest report painted a picture of an institution in free fall. Personal Log Day 41 of the withdrawal. The Council is experiencing what can only be described as an existential crisis. Today's emergency session devolved into shouting matches between species that blame each other for humanity's departure. The Centauri delegation accused the Plorians of being unnecessarily rigid in their application of Regulation 87C. The Plorians responded by questioning the Centauri commitment to Council principles. Most significantly, 3 minor species have formally requested leave to establish independent relationships with Earth. The precedent is becoming contagious. The cascade effect was accelerating. As more species considered leaving the Council to pursue bilateral relationships with Earth, the remaining members faced the prospect of presiding over a disintegrating institution. The galactic civilization that had endured for millennia was fracturing because its most powerful members had refused to acknowledge the equality of a species they considered technologically immature. On Earth, the first mass deployment of regenerative medical technology began in carefully controlled trials across major population centers. The results were nothing short of miraculous. Elderly patients experienced dramatic reversals of aging-related decline. Disease rates plummeted as the nanobiological agents eliminated everything from cancer to genetic disorders. But perhaps more importantly, the cognitive enhancement effects were creating a generation of humans with dramatically expanded intellectual capabilities. Scientists solved theoretical problems that had puzzled them for decades. Artists created works of unprecedented complexity and beauty. The technology wasn't just extending human life, it was unlocking human potential in ways that nobody had anticipated. Dr. Paul Baker stood in the observation deck of the Mariana facility, watching automated production lines churning out nanobiological agents at rates that would have been impossible using Council manufacturing techniques. Kelly, we've essentially created a post-scarcity economy for medical treatment. The production costs are so low that we could offer these treatments to any species in the galaxy without significant economic impact. Dr. Stewart joined him at the observation window, contemplating the implications of their achievement. The question is whether we should. We've demonstrated that humanity can stand on its own, but do we want to remain isolated indefinitely? There's so much we could learn from other species and so much we could teach them. The answer came from an unexpected source. The Emergency Diplomatic Conference in Geneva had been struggling to address the growing crisis when Catherine Hughes received a priority communication from Unity Station. Captain Rogers was requesting permission to host a new type of diplomatic gathering, one that would include Earth and any species willing to engage in direct bilateral relationships. Ambassador Hughes. Rogers transmitted We have representatives from 47 different species requesting discussions about technology, sharing mutual defense, and collaborative research agreements. They're willing to bypass the Council entirely, if necessary. I think we have an opportunity to create something entirely new here. Catherine Hughes understood the implications immediately. Earth wasn't just withdrawing from galactic civilization, it was potentially creating an alternative framework for interspecies cooperation. A framework based on equality and mutual respect rather than bureaucratic hierarchy and technological gatekeeping. The proposal that emerged from these discussions was revolutionary. Instead of rejoining the Council under the old terms, Earth would establish a new institution, the Galactic Cooperation Center. This organization would be based on three fundamental principles that directly challenge Council orthodoxy. First, all life-saving medical technology would be shared freely among member species, regardless of their perceived technological maturity. The artificial scarcity that the Council maintained to preserve social order would be replaced by abundance and cooperation. Second, representation in the organization would be based on population and contribution rather than technological advancement or political influence. Species would be valued for their diversity and perspectives rather than their military capabilities or ancient achievements. Third, the organization would focus on mutual defense and collaborative research rather than territorial expansion or resource exploitation. The goal would be to elevate all member species, rather than maintaining a hierarchy of technological haves and have-nots. The response to this proposal was immediate and overwhelming. Within days, representatives from over 200 species had requested information about joining the Galactic Cooperation Center. Many were smaller civilizations that had been marginalized by the Council's focus on technological advancement. Others were advanced species that had grown tired of the Council's bureaucratic stagnation. High Speaker Vix Toth made one final attempt to bring Earth back into the Council fold. His message, transmitted through official diplomatic channels, carried undertones of desperation that the translation algorithms couldn't entirely hide. Ambassador Miller, the Council is prepared to grant immediate access to all medical technologies, including those previously restricted under Regulation 87C. We are also willing to fast-track Earth's advancement to full membership status, with voting rights equal to the founding species. Please reconsider your withdrawal and return to the established order. Frank Miller's response was polite but firm. High Speaker, we appreciate the Council's willingness to reconsider its policies. However, humanity has moved beyond the need for Council membership. We are now in a position to offer the same medical technologies to any species that wishes to join us in our new framework for galactic cooperation. The invitation extends to all Council species that are interested in a more equitable approach to interspecies relations. The revolution was complete. Earth had gone from supplicant to leader in less than 2 months, not through military conquest or technological intimidation, but through the simple act of walking away and building something better. The Galactic Cooperation Center's headquarters was established in Tanzania, on Earth itself. The building's design deliberately rejected the cold, crystalline architecture of Council Station in favor of warm wood and transparent polymers that created an atmosphere of openness and accessibility. There were no raised platforms for superior species, no hierarchical seating arrangements, no symbolic representations of technological advancement. The inaugural session brought together representatives from 312 species, including several that had previously been denied Council membership due to their insufficient technological development. The gathering was chaotic, multilingual, and absolutely magnificent in its diversity. Ambassador Frank Miller, now serving as the first Director General of the Galactic Cooperation Center, addressed the assembly with words that would be remembered across the galaxy for centuries to come. Fellow beings, we gather not as conquerors or supplicants, not as teachers or students, but as equals sharing a common commitment to life, dignity, and mutual flourishing. The technologies that preserve life and enhance intelligence belong to all sentient beings, not as privileges to be rationed by bureaucrats, but as rights to be shared freely among all who value existence itself. The Humanity Accords, as they came to be known, were ratified within hours. The three core principles of the Galactic Cooperation Center became the foundation for a new era of interspecies relations based on equality rather than hierarchy, abundance rather than scarcity, and cooperation rather than competition. Dr. Diana Reeves transmitted her final report from Council Station as she prepared to transfer to the new Galactic Cooperation Center headquarters. Her words captured the magnitude of the transformation that had taken place. Final log from Council Station. Today, I observed something unprecedented in the annals of galactic civilization, the peaceful collapse of an ancient order, and its replacement by something genuinely revolutionary. The Council still exists, but it now governs barely 300 species out of the thousands that populate our galaxy. The majority have chosen to join humanity's alternative framework, drawn by the promise of genuine equality and shared prosperity. Unity Station evolved from a defensive outpost into a thriving center of interspecies research and education. The station's medical facilities, now equipped with the most advanced regenerative technology in the galaxy, welcomed patients from hundreds of worlds. Its universities attracted students eager to learn not just human sciences, but the integrated knowledge that emerged from truly collaborative research. Captain Ben Rogers found himself commanding not just a space station, but a symbol of humanity's transformation from galactic outsider to leader of a new cooperative civilization. The irony wasn't lost on him that the species once considered too immature for advanced medical technology was now providing that technology freely to anyone who requested it. The Council's attempts to maintain relevance grew increasingly desperate. Regulation 87C was repealed, then replaced with increasingly generous offers of technological sharing. But the damage was done. The artificial scarcity that had maintained the Council's power structure for millennia had been exposed as unnecessary and ultimately counterproductive. Some Council species eventually joined the Galactic Cooperation Center, abandoning their privileged positions in the old hierarchy for equal membership in the new organization. Others remained within the Council structure, governing a steadily shrinking alliance of conservative species, unwilling to embrace the radical equality that humanity had introduced to galactic politics. The transformation wasn't without challenges. The rapid introduction of life extension technology created social upheavals as civilizations struggled to adapt to populations that no longer aged. Economic systems built around scarcity had to be redesigned for abundance. Political structures based on generational change had to accommodate leaders who could remain in power indefinitely. But these were problems of success rather than failure. The galaxy was experiencing unprecedented prosperity as the knowledge and resources that had once been hoarded by advanced species were shared freely among all members of the Cooperation Center. Scientific advancement accelerated as researchers from hundreds of different species collaborated on projects that no single civilization could have undertaken alone. Earth itself became a pilgrimage destination for beings seeking to understand how a technologically immature species had managed to revolutionize galactic civilization. The answer, most visitors discovered, lay not in any particular human technology or capability, but in humanity's willingness to walk away from an unjust system and build something better. Frank Miller often reflected on the irony as he worked in his office overlooking the Galactic Cooperation Center's main assembly hall. The withdrawal that had seemed like humanity's greatest diplomatic failure had become its greatest success. By refusing to accept second-class status in someone else's civilization, humans had created the foundation for a civilization that valued all species equally. The lesson echoed across the galaxy. True power lay not in the ability to exclude others, but in the courage to include everyone. The species that had once been considered too young, too primitive, too dangerous for full participation in galactic society, had shown the way toward a future where such distinctions no longer mattered. In the end, the humans had walked out and the galaxy had followed them home.